3 weeks before her 60th birthday, my mother sent a message to the family group at 9:17 in the evening. She wrote that single mothers such as myself bring lasting shame upon a family, that my 8-year-old daughter had already learned her place, and that neither of us would ever be considered her family. The final line was typed with deliberate care. Do not bring the child. This town does not need another living reminder of failure. I read it once, then I turned the phone face down and continued folding my daughter's clothes. I offered no reply. My mother has always mistaken silence for agreement. She was mistaken. 2 weeks after the party, she opened her front door, still wearing the smile she reserved for every church photograph, saw who stood beside my daughter and me, and that smile died on her face. My name is Judy Rainey. I am 33 years old. Welcome back to Revenge Episodes, the channel for women who stopped apologizing for taking up space and the families who never saw it coming. If this story already feels too close, you are exactly who we make these for. Drop a comment, tell me where you're listening from, and subscribe so the next one finds you. It starts on an ordinary Tuesday in February in a 2-chair shop on Worcester Street with my name painted on the window. I open at 8. Marietta, Ohio is a river town of about 13,000 people, and at 8 in the morning the whole place smells like cold concrete and diesel from the bridge. Inside my shop, it smells like ammonia and perm solution, which I stopped noticing years ago. Dot Pewitt rents my second chair. She is 58. She has worked behind a chair since she was 19, and she talks to her clients the way some people pray, steadily and without needing an answer. My first appointment that morning was Gail Bickham, who has had the same haircut since 1994 and would riot if I changed it. She sat down, looked at the mirror, and looked past it to the window where the letters were painted by hand. Your mother must be so proud of this place. I asked her about her daughter's wedding instead. She talked for 40 minutes about a caterer in Bellry. That is how it works here. If you do not correct people, they keep the version they came in with. And I had stopped correcting people a long time before that morning. At 3:30, my daughter came in from school and took over the shampoo chair like she pays rent on it. Piper is 8. She has a spiral notebook full of stickers arranged by category, and she is very serious about it. That afternoon, she was building a birthday card for her grandmother out of construction paper and a great deal of tape. Does Grandma like the purple one or the blue one better? She was holding 2 cats, one purple, one blue. She had been saving the purple cat since January. Purple, I said. She nodded like I had confirmed something scientific and went back to work. I stood there with a broom in my hand and did the arithmetic I had been avoiding. The invitations for my mother's 60th had gone out the previous Friday. I knew because 2 of my clients had theirs on the refrigerator. Our mailbox had a Kroger circular in it and nothing else. That evening, a client texted me asking what I planned to wear to my mom's thing because she needed ideas. I typed 3 different answers. I deleted all of them and sent back a period. The message came 4 days later. At 9:11 that night, my Aunt Karen asked a question in the family group. There are 9 of us in it. The photo at the top is from a reunion in 2016, and I am standing at the edge of the frame with half my shoulder cut off. Are Judy and Piper coming Saturday? I need a head count for chairs. It was an administrative question. Karen is the kind of woman who counts chairs. She meant nothing by it, which is the part I still think about because for 6 minutes nothing happened. And then my mother answered all 9 of us at once. Piper was already asleep in the next room. I had a stack of her clothes on my lap and I was matching socks, which is a thing you can do without your hands really being involved. I read what my mother wrote. Then I read the last line again. Do not bring the child. This town does not need another living reminder of failure. The group went quiet, not for a second. The way people go quiet when they are choosing words, for 6 full minutes. Then somebody put a thumbs up on it. Then my cousin asked whether anyone had seen the roasting pan she lent out at Christmas. And everyone had a lot to say about the roasting pan. That is what family looks like from the inside. Nobody defends you and nobody attacks you. They just wait for the subject to change and they help it change. I did not answer. I set the phone face down on the arm of the couch and finished the socks. And while I was doing it, something appeared at the bottom of the screen. EMTT is typing. My uncle EMTT is my mother's younger brother. He is 56 years old. He can fix anything with a spring in it, and he has not looked me in the eye since I was 12. The line sat there for close to a minute. The dots moved, then they stopped and nothing came through. And the last message in the family group stayed the one about the roasting pan. I waited another 2 minutes before I turned the screen off. I could not have told you what I was waiting for. In the morning, I read the whole thing one more time, and I caught on a single word. Another living reminder. I assumed she meant besides me. I assumed she was counting me first and Piper second, and it stung in the ordinary way, and I put it down and went to work. I want to be honest about that because everything that came later was sitting in plain sight in that sentence, and I walked past it. Piper found the card that afternoon and asked whether we should drive it over or mail it. Mail it. If we mail it, does she still know it's from me? She'll know. That was the first lie I told in this story. And I told it in a post office parking lot on Putnam Street with a flag stamp in my hand. I had been mailing cards to my mother for 8 years by then, twice a year, with no reply of any kind. People ask me why. It is not because I was hopping. It is because the day I stopped would be the day her version became true. Her version is that I walked away. Every stamp was a small, cheap argument that I had not. I need to take you back to a February that was much colder than that one. I was 12 years old in 2005. My sister Nell was 17. She was 5 years older than me, and she was the one who taught me how to French braid badly on a doll with most of its hair pulled out. On the night of February 11th, I was told to stay in my room. I did. I was a child who did what she was told, and I have thought about that more than is useful. I could hear my mother's voice through the wall, not the words. I heard a zipper on a duffel bag, which is a sound you never forget once you have learned what it means. And I heard the storm door twice. Our storm door was aluminum with a bad spring, and it did not close so much as it fired shut. And it went off twice that night, about 4 minutes apart. Headlights swung across my ceiling. Then my mother came back inside alone. And the first thing she did before she took her coat off was wipe down the kitchen counter. By Sunday, the story was finished. It arrived complete with no rough edges, the way a story does when someone has practiced it. Snorts, your sister has chosen a different kind of life. We are not going to discuss it. Nell had moved to Texas. That was the sentence. Nobody in my family ever said the name of a city, and nobody ever asked. And my father, who was a quiet man who fixed lawnmowers on weekends and died in 2014, did not contradict a word of it. At dinner that week, there were 3 plates. The 4th did not come back out of the cabinet. Not that year and not any year after. I kept 2 things. The first is a Polaroid from Christmas of 2004. The 2 of us on the floor in front of the tree. Nell making a face because she hated pictures. On the back, she wrote both our names and the year in ballpoint. And her capital J has a loop on the tail that I would know anywhere. The second is a friendship bracelet, red and white, that she made in about 10 minutes, and I have kept 21 years in a shoe box on the top shelf of my closet. When I was 14, I asked my mother whether we had any pictures from that Christmas. We don't have pictures from that year. I was holding one at the time. It was in my room 11 FT from where she was standing. I did not say so. I already knew what questions cost in that house. I want to be fair about myself here. 5 years later, when I was 19 and wanted my mother's approval more than I wanted to be a decent person, I sat in her car in a grocery store lot and told her I was not like Nell. She reached over and squeezed my hand and told me she knew. It bought me about 2 years of being the good one. I have never told anybody that until now. By 2015, my mother had become the kindest woman in Marietta. And I do not say that with a sneer because it was partly true. That year, she founded a program at Grace Bethel Fellowship called Second Chance Mothers. It collects car seats, diapers, formula, and rent money for young women having bobbies with nobody standing behind them. It has a storage room off the back of the fellowship hall with a laminated donation thermometer taped to the door colored in with marker up to $6,200. It is a real program. It has kept real people in real apartments. I want that on the record before I say anything else about her. I have heard her stand up in front of that congregation and say it. Nobody should have to raise a baby alone. I was standing at the back of the hall the first time holding a folding chair, and not one person in that room heard anything strange in it. In the winter of 2019, there was a girl of about 19 living out past the county line with a newborn and no car. I know because she came into my shop 2 years later and told me my mother drove her to a WIC appointment in Parkerburg in 4 in of snow, waited in the parking lot for 2 hours with the engine running so the heat would stay on, and drove her home. She did not post about it. Nobody photographed it. I have to hold both of those things at the same time, and I have not figured out how. My mother is the reason there are car seats in the trunks of cars in this county that would not otherwise be there. She is also the reason my sister spent a night in a bus station. People want you to pick one. You do not get to. My mother's real talent is not organizing. It is distribution. She tells her version in the parking lot after the 10:00 service in the prayer chain at the checkout at Riverview Foods. And by the time you hear it, it has already been agreed to by 40 people. I heard her say it once to a friend by the car loud enough that I was clearly meant to hear. We do what we can. Some people just don't want the help. The other thing about my mother is that she keeps everything. She has a filing cabinet in the back bedroom with tax returns going back to before I was born. And she is the one the church calls when nobody can find the minutes from an old meeting. In our family, she is the archive. I thought that was just a habit. It turned out to be the only reason I ever learned the truth. I ran into my uncle EMTT at the hardware store that winter in the aisle with the hinges. He had a box of storm door closers in his basket, the kind with the long pneumatic tube. "Tell Piper," I said. "Hey!" Then he went around the end cap and did not come back down that aisle. I stood there with a package of drawer pulls and thought, not for the first time that a man can spend 20 years being polite to you and never once look at your face. Dot heard about the group chat within a day because Karen told her sister, and her sister comes in on Thursdays. "You want me to say something? I can say something." "No, Judy." No, that mattered later and I did not know it yet. My chair is the most reliable news service in this town, and I had decided a long time ago that I was not going to use it on my own mother. Not because I am a saint, because if I ever did say something, I wanted it to be true and provable. And I wanted to only have to say it once. There's a photograph of my baby's shower from October of 2017. In the original, Travis Arian is standing behind my left shoulder with a paper plate in his hand. He was Piper's father. He was 24 and he was not a monster. He was a young man who found out that he did not want the life he had agreed to. And in June of 2018, he moved to Grand Junction, Colorado, which is 1,500 miles away. There is an order through the county, $260 a month when it comes. My mother took that photograph, then she posted it with him cropped out, and she captioned it in a way that did not say anything untrue and did not say anything true either. Within a week, the town had decided that I did not know who the father was. A woman I went to high school with commented, "Bless you for standing by her." And my mother liked it. I still have the original. You can see Travis's elbow at the edge of the frame if you know to look. I never posted it. Posting it would have looked like a fight. And in a town this size, you cannot win a fight with your own mother. You can only be a woman who fights with her mother. Thanksgiving of 2023, Piper was 6. There were 9 of us in the dining room and 3 grandchildren at the table. Piper was set up at a folding card table on the back porch with a paper plate. It was 42 degrees out there. "There just isn't room, honey." Piper ate 2 bites, picked up her plate, carried it inside, and set it down on the floor next to my chair. She did not say anything about it. She did not cry. She just relocated. I have thought about that child's dignity more than I have thought about my own. Sometime in early 2024, a client mentioned in passing that my mother had someone new helping her at church. "She's got a new girl helping her now. Sweet thing. What's her name?" She could not remember. Nobody could ever remember. For 2 years, I heard about that girl maybe 6 times, and not once did anybody produce a name. The last small thing happened that spring. My mother called the shop for an appointment and Dot took the call. "I'm booked through spring." She was not. There were 3 open slots that week and the book was sitting open on the counter. My mother started driving 20 minutes to a salon in Belpre after that, and everybody in this town knew about it inside of a month, which is its own kind of statement. Everything I knew about my mother's 60th birthday, I learned from people sitting in my chair. That is not a skill. It is just what happens when you stand 3 feet from a person for 45 minutes while their hands are trapped under a cape. People tell you what they would not tell their pastor. So I knew about the slideshow. 40 slides, Judy 40. I told her nobody sits still that long. I knew the fellowship hall had been booked since November. I knew there would be pulled pork and 2 kinds of potatoes, and that my cousin's husband was bringing the sound system. And I knew the part that mattered Clear's throat, which was that the party was not really a party. They're giving her the Service Heart. Can you believe it took them this long? The Service Heart Award is given out by the Mid-Ohio Valley Ministry Alliance. It is a walnut plaque with laser engraving, and it is genuinely difficult to get. They were giving it to my mother for 11 years of work with young single mothers, and they were presenting it at her birthday party. so that both things could be photographed at once. 40 slides of our family, and I was not going to be in any of them, and not one person sitting in my chair thought that was strange enough to ask about. The same client mentioned that Roz's girl was going to say a few words. What's her name? She thought about it with her head under the dryer for a good 10 seconds. I want to say it starts with a C. Piper heard about the party from a classmate's mother in the pickup line. That night in the car, she asked me the question directly. In the flat way, children ask things when they already know. Are we going to Grandma's party or not? I could have managed it. I could have said we had other plans. I looked at her in the rearview mirror and decided I was not going to teach my daughter that the adults in her life would lie to her face to keep things smooth. No, we're not. She did not ask why. She turned and looked out the window at the ride aid, and she did not ask a single follow-up question, and that was much worse than crying would have been. March 21st was a Saturday, and I worked it. 6 appointments, 9 to 4. 3 of those women went straight from my chair to the fellowship hall. One of them offered, while I was rinsing her out, to take a picture for me. That's okay. I said it kindly. Then I checked my phone 11 times before 5:00. Piper spent the afternoon making cupcakes. She did not ask permission, and I did not stop her because stopping her would have required me to explain something I could not explain. She made 12 blue frosting because that is the color she associates with celebrations for reasons no one has ever gotten out of her. One of them came out burned along one edge, and she set it aside for herself. We can just keep them in the fridge in case. She put the container by the front door instead of in the refrigerator. It sat there all evening where anyone coming in would see it. The pictures started around 7 on the town Facebook page. My mother at the podium with the plaque. My mother with her hands folded doing the modest face. A wide shot of the hall with 2 rows of people standing behind her. And the caption underneath said, 60 years of putting other people first. In one of the photographs, there was a young woman standing at my mother's left shoulder close in the way family stands. Dark blonde, maybe mid-20s. She was holding a toddler on her hip, and she was looking at my mother instead of the camera. I did not know who she was. At 10:06 that night, my phone lit up on the counter in a dark kitchen, a number I did not have saved. It rang 3 times and stopped before I could get to it, and there was no voicemail. I called it back, and it went straight to a recording. A man's voice, no name, just the number read back to me. I stood there in the dark with the phone in my hand and the cupcake still by the door. The following Monday, a client left the church bulletin on the little table in my waiting area under a coffee cup. Dated Sunday the 29th. Page 2 had a photograph of my mother with a young woman and a small boy, and it was captioned in the same font as the potluck sign-up. Roz with her girl, Colleen, and our newest little one. I read that caption 3 times. I understood every word in it separately, and I could not make them mean anything together. Her girl. It is not a phrase you use by accident. It is a phrase you have used out loud repeatedly in front of people until it stops sounding like a claim. I was still holding it when Piper came out of the back with her backpack, saw the picture, and read the caption out loud because she is 8 and 8-year-olds read things out loud. Then she looked up at me. Is that my cousin? I took the bulletin out of her hands and told her we would talk about it later. And then I did not talk about it later, which is the exact behavior I have spent my whole life resenting in my mother. I went into the back room and turned the tap on and cried for about 40 seconds. Dot knocked on the door frame without opening it. Take 10. I've got the 4:00. I washed my face, and while I was drying it, I had the thought that I have not been able to shake since, which is that maybe I was making a child's rejection into my own story. And maybe I had been waiting my whole adult life for a reason to finally be angry. And maybe I had just been handed one and was enjoying it. I do not know how to prove that I was not. I only know what I did next, which was nothing for exactly 1 day. That night, Piper waited until I had turned her lamp off, which is when she asks the thing she has been holding all day. Is she a different granddaughter? No, but the paper said her girl. I sat down on the edge of the bed and tried to find the version that was true and also survivable for an 8-year-old. What I landed on was that Grandma helps young women who do not have anybody, and that one of them has been staying close to her, and that it does not have anything to do with Piper. She thought about it for a while in the dark. Did I do something? I have been angry a great many times in the last year, and none of it felt like that did. She was lying there running an inventory of her own behavior, looking for the thing she had done wrong, because that is what children do when adults will not give them a reason. No, baby, you did not do anything. Not one thing. Can I still make the cards? I told her yes. She turned over and went to sleep in about 90 seconds, the way she does. And I sat on the floor in the hallway outside her door for a while with my back against the wall. Then the phone rang at the shop a little before closing, and a young woman's voice asked whether I had anything Tuesday morning. Can I get a name? Vaser. Vasser Colleen. I wrote it in the paper book in blue pen in the 10:00 slot, and then I sat and looked at it for a while, and I did not know whether I wanted to erase it or not. She came in at 10 with the boy on her hip. Colleen Vassar is 27. She works nights as an aide at the nursing home out on Muskingum Drive. Her son Owen is 3, and he went straight for the tin of clips on the low shelf and sat down on the floor with it like he had been coming here his whole life. She got into my chair and looked at herself the way women look at themselves when they have not sat in front of a mirror on purpose in a long time. Just the ends. I haven't had it cut since he was born. We talked about nothing for 4 minutes. The weather, the nursing home, the price of everything. Then she mentioned Miss Rose, and I felt my comb stop moving, and I made it start again. She kept going. She did not know she was standing in a hole. She let me stay with her a while back in 23 after I got put out of my apartment. 7 months. She smiled at the mirror. The little back room with the flowered paper, blue flowers, small ones in vertical stripes that my father hung in 1998, and that my mother refused to replace because she said it was still in good shape. Do you know whose room that was before? No, ma'am. She was not being sly. She genuinely did not know. She had slept 300 nights in a room she had never asked a single question about. Then she caught my eye in the mirror and something in her face changed, and she said the thing she had actually come to say. Can I ask you something? Did you ever live at 1109 Warren? The scissors were open in my hand. I did not put them down. I said yes. I saw the sign out front. Rainy, and I thought, that can't be that common. Why? She turned around in the chair, which is something you are not supposed to do. Because I've got something in my trunk and I don't know what to do with it. We went out the back, past the dumpster to a Corolla with a cracked bumper. She opened the trunk, and there was a banana box in it folded shut with writing on the side in black marker. Taxes. I knew the handwriting before I finished reading the numbers. My mother slants her letters hard to the right, and she crosses a 5 like she is angry at it. She snorts gave it to me the Thursday before her party. Colleen said she was clearing out the back room for company. She said it was scrap paper for Owen to draw on. We opened it at 7 that night after I locked the front door on the folding table in the back room with the plastic cloth on it. Owen was asleep across 2 waiting chairs with my coat over him. I only opened the top one, Colleen said. Then I stopped. The box had been closed the way people close a box they do not intend to open again, with the flaps folded over each other in a square. Inside were envelopes, not files, not receipts. Envelopes standing on their edges, packed in tight. We counted them on the table. 22 from me, Christmas cards, birthday cards, and 4 actual letters running from December of 2017 to February of this year. 5 from Piper, starting when she was 4, the early ones addressed in my handwriting with her name printed underneath in pencil. Every single one of them sealed, not opened and put back. Sealed. The card Piper mailed in February was near the top. Postmark still sharp, and there was a purple cat sticker holding down the flap where she had pressed it with her thumb. Colleen sat down on the floor with her back against the cabinet. She told me you were dead to her. She said it to her own knees, not like dead. She said you were dead to her. I thought that was just how people talk. I did not say anything because there was nothing to say that would have been any use to her. I signed a paper when I came into the program 2 years ago. Photo release. I forgot about it about 10 minutes after I signed it. She laughed. One breath, no humor in it. She's been using it ever since. Then she looked up. Then what was I? I have thought about that question for months, and I still do not have a clean answer. The closest I can get is that my mother was not being cruel to Colleen. She was doing something worse and much sadder, which is that she was practicing. Colleen was dark blonde and 23 with a 2-month-old. And my mother took her into the back bedroom and gave her a Thanksgiving chair and called her my girl in print. And she was not replacing me at all. I did not understand that yet. What I understood was that there were 4 more envelopes at the bottom of the box that were nothing like the others. Thinner paper, different hand. All 4 addressed to Judy Rainey at 1109 Warren Street in a looping slanted script I had not seen in 21 years. All 4 sealed. Colleen turned one over and read the round stamp out loud. Parker, West Virginia. I did not open them. I said all 4 in a row, and I went out to my car and came back with a shoe box, and I put a Polaroid on the table beside them. Snort's same loop on the tail of the capital J, same tilt. She never went to Texas. And then I picked up my phone and I found the screenshot I had taken on the 27th of February and had never shown to a living soul. And I read the last line one more time. This town does not need another living reminder of failure. Another most of us are keeping something we never opened. A letter, a message, a box in the back of a closet we have walked past for years because opening it would make it real. If you have one, tell me what it is in the comments. I would like to know I am not the only one. Here is what was in mine. The first envelope was postmarked March of 2005. 4 weeks after the storm door. Half a page of notebook paper torn out of a 3-ring binder, the holes ripped through on one side. My sister was 17 when she wrote it, and it reads like it. She asked whether I had gotten the last one. She said she was okay and that she had a place. She said she was working at a dairy mart and that it was fine. At the bottom, underlined twice. Right back to this address. Don't tell her she had gotten the last one. There was no last one in the box. Whatever came before March is simply gone, and I have made my peace with never knowing how many there were. The second was August of the same year. The third was January of 2006, and it is the longest, and I am not going to read it out to strangers. In it, she tells me what happened to the baby in April of 2005 alone in a room on 7th Street. She was 17, and she wrote it to a 12-year-old because there was nobody else to write it to. The fourth was June of 2008, and it is 3 lines long. I'm okay. You don't have to write back. I hope school's good. She waited 3 years. That is the part that took the floor out from under me. She wrote into silence for 3 years, and then she stopped politely. The way you stop calling a friend who has stopped calling you, and she assumed the silence was mine. On Thursday, the 2nd of April, I drove to the address on the envelopes. Marietta to Parkerburg is 14 miles. You take the bridge over the Ohio and you are there. It took me 22 minutes. And I want to say clearly that I have crossed that river several hundred times in my life for groceries, for a dentist, for a concert in high school. 7th Street now has a laundromat where the number in the letters should be. The building is the same building. The woman working the counter was maybe 30 and had never heard the name and had no reason to. I sat in the parking lot for a while with the engine off, and I remembered something that had been sitting in the back of my head uncatalogued for 10 years. In the fall of 2016, I was getting gas on Route 68, and a woman at the pump across from me was looking at me, not glancing, looking. She had a car with a Wood County plate, and she had been standing there with the nozzle in her hand for longer than a person needs to. When I looked back at her, she said one word: sorry. Then she hung up the nozzle and got in and left without finishing. I remember thinking she had mistaken me for someone. I remember that she had a small tattoo on the inside of her wrist. A letter faded the way old ink goes green. I did not find my sister that day. I want to be honest about that because I think people expect a story like this to have a moment where the woman turns detective and cracks it open. I am a hairdresser. I drove 14 miles and looked at a laundromat and drove home. But somewhere on the bridge, I stopped needing to find her. I called from my driveway. I don't need to find her. I need my mother to say the year out loud. That night, I did one more thing, and it is the only thing in this entire story that I am genuinely proud of. I opened the town Facebook page and I started typing. I had the screenshot. I had 4 postmarks. I had 27 sealed envelopes on my kitchen table and a photograph of a purple cat sticker. And I could have ended my mother's standing in this county in about 9 hours. I got 2 sentences in. Then I deleted it and I closed the phone and I went to bed. Not because I am better than that. Because if I did it that way for the rest of Piper's life, the story would be that her mother took her grandmother down on the internet. I wanted it done in front of a small number of people who mattered in daylight with my hands empty. On Thursday evening, my uncle EMTT came to the shop. He said the closer on my front door was slamming and that he had heard it from the sidewalk, which was true and had been true for about 2 years. He got a stepladder out of his truck without being asked and worked on it for 20 minutes while I swept up around him, and Dot pretended to reconcile the book. When he came down off the ladder, he stood there holding the screwdriver and looking at the doorframe. Your mother, I did not help him. That is the one decision from that whole week I am sure about. I stood there with a broom and I let the sentence stay unfinished because a man who has been quiet for 21 years does not need somebody else's hand on his back, and because whatever he said next I wanted him to have chosen. He put the screwdriver in his back pocket. She's got people over there Saturday for the diaper thing. First Saturday of the month. Then he folded up the ladder and carried it out. That is how I picked the day. We got to Warren Street a little after 11 on the 4th of April. 2 garbage bags of diapers were already sitting on the porch, 3 cars in the driveway and 1 at the curb. Through the front window, I could see people moving around in the living room and around the side of the house. At the top of the driveway, my uncle EMTT was on his knees in front of the side entry with a screwdriver in his mouth, fitting a brand new storm door into the frame. The old one was leaning against the siding behind him. I could smell the primer on the new one from the sidewalk. Piper held my hand going up the steps. Colleen stood on my other side with her arms crossed and the box against her hip. My mother opened the door with her Sunday face on, already talking, already smiling. "Come on in. The bags are in the..." She saw Colleen first. I watched her eyes go to Colleen, then to Piper. Then to me, and the sentence stopped where it stopped and never got finished that day or any other. Then she stepped out onto the porch and pulled the door most of the way shut behind her, and she kept her hand on the knob. That was her first instinct, not to ask why we were there, to control what could be seen and heard from inside. "Whatever this is, we can do it another time." "Hi, Grandma," Piper said. My mother did not answer her. She looked at me and she said it again, quieter in the voice she uses when she is being reasonable at you. Colleen stepped forward and set the banana box down on the top step between the 2 bags of diapers with the writing facing up. "You gave this to me for my son to draw on. I'd like you to have it back." The screen door behind my mother opened, and a woman from the church came halfway out holding a clipboard and said, "Rose, do you want these counted by size?" And then she saw the 4 of us standing there and she did not go back inside. My mother looked at the box for about 2 seconds. "I have no idea what's in there. I've had paperwork in that closet for 30 years, then to me in a lower register. You have always needed an audience, Judy." "That's fair," I said. "I do need one today." That stopped her, which I had not expected. I think she had a second thing prepared and it did not fit anymore. I did not open the box. I took 1 envelope out of my coat pocket and I held it up with the back of it facing her, the round postmark out where the woman with the clipboard could see it, too. "What year did Nell move to Texas?" "Judy, say it out loud." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said it because she had said it 1,000 times and because there were people watching and because not answering would have been an answer. 2005. I turned the envelope around. Parker WV 2006. Addressed in my sister's handwriting to me at that house. At that door where my mother had taken it out of that mailbox and carried it inside and put it in a box marked with a tax year. Nobody said anything. The woman with the clipboard looked down at the postmark and then up at my mother, and she was still holding the clipboard against her chest like it was going to help. That was when EMTT came around the corner of the house. He was carrying the old storm door with both hands, that dented aluminum frame with the bad spring still hanging off the top of it. He got as far as the bottom of the steps. He set it down on the concrete carefully. "The way you set down something you have been carrying a long way." "It was February," he said. I drove her. My mother said his name once in a voice I had never heard her use in front of anyone outside our family. He did not look at her. He looked at the ground beside the box, which is where he looked for most of what came next. He said he had put Nell in his truck at about 10:30 at night on the 11th of February and driven her across the river to the bus station in Parkerburg. He gave her $420 out of his wallet, which was what he had. He waited in the lot with the engine running. She never got on the bus. I sat there till it pulled out. She had walked off towards 7th Street with the duffel bag, and he had let her because she asked him to. And because he was 34 years old and terrified of his own sister. He knew where she was for 6 years. He said he checked on her twice a year in a way that did not involve talking to her, which is a thing I understand better than I would like to. He lost her in 2011. Then he said the part I did not know was coming. "Roz, tell them what you told me in the truck." My mother said nothing, so he said it. He said that on the way back over the bridge that night with the passenger seat empty, my mother told him why it had to be that night and not any other night. I can't have this sitting in front of the committee. In April of 2005, the board at Grace Bethel voted to create a paid part-time position, family life coordinator, 15 hours a week and a title and an office with a door. 2 people were up for it. The vote was on the 10th of April, 58 days after my sister walked out of that house with a duffel bag, and my mother won it. and she held that office for 10 years. And in 2015, out of that office, she started a program for young women having bobbies with nobody standing behind them. Colleen understood it before I did. I heard her make a small sound behind me, and when I turned around, she had both hands over her mouth, every car seat, every rent check. 11 years of a genuinely good thing built on top of a 17-year-old in a room on 7th Street. My mother did not confess. I want to be very clear about that because I have watched a lot of these stories, and in the stories, the woman crumbles. She straightened up. She took her hand off the doorknob for the first time, and she folded her arms, and she looked around the porch, and I watched her count. The woman with the clipboard. EMTT. Colleen, my daughter, you have no idea what I kept off this family. That was it. That was all of it. Not an apology, not a denial exactly, just a repositioning. And I understood standing there that she believed it. She has always believed it. In her version of the last 21 years, she is the one who carried something heavy so that the rest of us would not have to look at it. The screen door opened again, and Pastor Dale Corian came out onto the porch. He is 58, and he has been at Grace Bethel since 2003. And I do not know how long he had been standing inside the door, but it was long enough. He was still holding the little notebook they used to count donations. He did not raise his voice. He is not that kind of man. Rose, was there a daughter before Judy? My mother looked at him and she did not answer. Not with a yes, not with a no, not with a redirection. She stood on her own porch in front of 5 people and she did not say one word. And the silence went on long enough that everybody there had time to decide what it meant. That was the moment it changed hands. Not the box, not the postmark. That I picked Piper up, which I have not done since she was 6 and which she allowed. And we went down the steps past the old storm door and got in the car. Nobody in this town got run out of anywhere. There was no article. There was no meeting. The Ministry Alliance did not take the service heart back, and I never expected them to because organizations do not do that. What happened instead was slower and I think more permanent. Pastor Corian went into the file cabinet in the church office the following week and found the minutes from April of 2005 because he is thorough and because he needed to know. He told EMTT what the date was. EMTT told me I have never seen the paper and I do not need to. On Sunday the 3rd of May, the bulletin ran 2 lines on page 2 saying that Rose would be stepping back for a season with our prayers. It did not name a replacement. In September, when the Alliance published the program for their fall conference, her name was not on the speakers list for the first time in 8 years. And nobody said anything about that either. That is how it works. You do not get thrown out. You get left off a piece of paper. The family split roughly the way I expected, which is to say unevenly and quietly. The town took longer and it did not come to me for information. That is the part I did not predict. I had spent years assuming that if the truth ever got out, it would travel through my chair because everything else in this county does. It did not. It went the other way. Women started arriving already knowing, having heard it from the woman with the clipboard or from her sister or from somebody who had been standing in that living room counting diapers by size. Some of them wanted to talk about it. I did not. I asked about their kids and their knee replacements and their kitchen remodels. And I let them sit with the fact that I was not going to hand them anything. Gail Bickham came in that April, sat down, looked at me in the mirror, and did not say a word about any of it for the entire 45 minutes. At the door, she put her hand on my arm. I should have asked you why you weren't in that slideshow. That was the only apology I got from anybody in this town, and it was not even hers to make. 2 relatives who had not called me in years called me. One of them cried. The other one wanted to know what I was going to do next, and I could tell she was calling for information. Not for me. My Aunt Karen called on a Tuesday during my lunch break. She's 60 years old, Judy. What did that accomplish? Kieran is the one who asked about the chairs. I do not think she has ever once connected those 2 facts, and I did not connect them for her. Thanks for calling, Aunt Karen. Then I hung up first, which I had never done to anyone in my family in my life. My mother called the shop once in the 2nd week of May. She did not mention the porch. She did not mention my sister. She said the church wanted a photograph to run alongside the note about her stepping back, something warm, and that she thought it would be good if Piper were in it. Then she added that I could be in it, too. There was a woman under the dryer 8FT from me, and I kept my voice flat. No, Judy, it would help. It would help you. She was quiet for a second, and then she said that she hoped I was proud of myself and that she had to go. I stood there afterward with the phone in my hand and worked out what had actually just happened, which was that for the first time in 33 years, my mother had needed something from me. She had needed it enough to dial, and she still could not ask for it in a sentence that did not have a hook in it. Colleen left the program in April. She kept the friendship. In the middle of May, she brought Owen into the shop for his first haircut, and I put the board across the arms of the chair and cut a 3-year-old's hair while his mother filmed it on her phone and told him he was being so brave. I saved a lock of it in a small envelope, which is what we do here, and Piper came around the counter and pressed a sticker down over the flap. EMTT gave me a last name, Brandt. She married a man named Dean Brandt in 2011 and divorced him in 2019 and kept the name, and that was the entire extent of what my uncle had. It was enough. There are 224 Houris in Parkersburg. I called the second one on a Thursday afternoon and asked whether Enel Brandt worked nights, and the woman who answered said she would pass along a message. I left 9 words. It's Judy. I have your letters, all 4. Then I waited 9 days. I know it was 9 because I counted them in appointments. On the 18th of April, she texted me 4 words and the name of a diner on Murdoch Avenue. She is 38. She was already in the booth when I got there with a cup of coffee she was not drinking, and she did not stand up, and we did not hug. She has our father's jaw. On the inside of her left wrist, there is a small green J that she got when she was 19 for a reason she has not told me. She works nights 11 to 7 filling prescriptions behind glass at a store where the parking lot lights buzz. She has an apartment above a dentist's office with a cat that she talks about the way people talk about a roommate they are fond of and slightly annoyed by. She said she stayed in Parkersburg because at first she could not afford to leave, and then because leaving started to feel like agreeing to something. I asked her whether she ever came over the bridge for work stuff, not for anything else. She turned the cup a quarter turn. I knew where the shop was. I looked it up when it opened. We were both bad at it for about 10 minutes. Then she said she told me, "You had your own life." She turned the cup around on the table. In 2011, I came back. I stood in that kitchen. She said, "You were doing well and you didn't need any of that stirred up," and I believed her because it made sense to me that you wouldn't. I asked her about the gas station on Route 68. She looked at the window for a second and then she nodded once, and that was all either of us said about it. She does not want to see our mother. She said it plainly and without any heat. The way you decline a thing you have already thought about for years. She said maybe someday, and I do not think she meant it. When we stood up to leave, she asked me for one thing. "Can you send me a picture of her? Just one." I sent her the photo from March 21st. My daughter on our kitchen floor at 9 at night, holding a plastic container of 12 blue cupcakes. One of them burned along the edge, waiting for a phone that was not going to ring. I wrote 3 sentences to my mother in May and mailed them with a flag stamp. The first said that she may write to Piper and that I will read what she writes before Piper does. The second said that if she wants to see her, it will be at my shop in front of me. The third said that no photograph of my daughter appears anywhere in any bulletin in any newsletter ever again. I sent a copy to the church office the same day in a separate envelope, not as a threat because a rule that only one person knows about is not a rule. It is a request. She has not written back. Piper's picture has not appeared in anything since. I went to the elementary school office in the same week and asked for Piper's emergency contact card. I put a line through my mother's name and wrote dots underneath it and signed and dated it. And the woman behind the counter made a copy and handed the original back and said, "Have a good one." It took less than 2 minutes. That is what a boundary actually looks like. It is almost always paperwork. The 16th of May was a Saturday, and the shop was full. Piper swept hair for $1, which is the rate, and she pushed the pile around for longer than the job required because she likes the money and hates the broom. Colleen sat in the row of waiting chairs with Owen on her lap and a magazine she was not reading. Dot had a woman under the dryer and was telling her about a sale on porch furniture. Nell came at 11. She stood inside the door for a second the way people do when they are not sure whether to sit, and then she took chair 2, and she did not know what to do with her hands. Piper stopped sweeping and looked at her for a while in that unembarrassed way children have. "Are you the aunt?" "Yeah," Nell said. "I guess I am. That is the first time in 21 years that anyone in this family called my sister anything at all." Before I locked up that night, I took the Polaroid out of the shoebox and put it in a $5 frame from the drugstore and wedged it into the edge of the mirror at chair 2. 2 girls on a floor in front of a tree in 2004. One of them making a face. The color has gone orange the way they do. I do not have a lesson. I have one sentence I keep coming back to, and it is this. Shame does not appear in a family out of nowhere. Somebody hands it to you. Usually a person who has handed it themselves, and the only real choice you get is whether you keep passing it down or whether it stops in your hands. It stopped in mine. That is the whole of it. Shame is not something you inherit. It is something somebody hands you and you can decide not to pass it on. And that is the only thing in this story I am actually proud of. If there is a piper in your life, or if you were the piper, tell me in the comments. Share this with the woman who needs to hear that leaving is allowed, and that it does not make her the villain. And subscribe, because there is always another family out there that mistook silence for agreement.